Oh, it says it.
It says we're live.
Yeah. It's proof.
It's proof we're live. We are live. John Sauve, my oldest, dearest, closest.
That's right, Sari. Don't you forget it either. We have things to do.
We have things to do.
I'm trying to occupy all your time. So
we'll go. Let's just talk.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you. And it's good that you're well rested and you just got back from Naples and you were talking to Barry, our good friend Barry.
Yeah. And we were just talking about Rob. So now we've name dropped them all.
Well, yeah, I hardly call those two name dropping, but for our purposes, it's name dropping and I like it.
So I posted yesterday right off the bat, anyone watching, saying, God knows what will happen today when you and I talk, because we've already lost all of our following today, this morning, because it's like just like a Facebook conversation here between the two of us catching up. But we are going to talk about, because it's always fun to catch up with John Sauve, the sculptor, the man in the city. I always tell people, when you travel, my husband and I have this philosophy. When people travel, they kind of like look ahead or they look down where they're kind of walking. And Mitch and I always say you should look up, because when you look up, you see like great things. And when you look up in Detroit and around the country, when you look up, you see these great red little men all across still. And a lot of people wonder still to this day, which means your publicist isn't probably doing the best job.
Oh, no, that just makes it more fun when you discover it on your own. That was part of your plan too, I know.
That was.
Yeah.
But John Sauve is the creator of The Man in the City. So we always do have to go back and talk about The Man in the City. But one of the things we are going to talk about today is and I'm excited to talk about it, is the I Am the Greatest project, because we really are. That is one of the reasons I wanted you to come on today, is to talk about 10 years behind this I Am the Greatest. And if you're wondering, I am the greatest, who is the greatest?
The greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali.
That's right. And if you don't know, if you've been living behind a rock, Muhammad Ali has great deep roots into Michigan.
He lived here for most of his life.
Yeah.
Right around Benton Harbor area.
Mm-hmm. So what does a sculptor who got to hang out with me at Michigan State have to do with the greatest of all time?
Well, actually, it goes back before I started the project. I had the opportunity to do a similar project in Benton Harbor. And it was a time period where they were kicking off this arts district in what was a pretty devastated area.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the first people that moved into the area, and it's a group called Cornerstone Alliance, was set up to revitalize the area. And one of the smartest moves they made was they gave a building to Richard Hunt, who is a world-renowned sculptor and good friend of mine as a result of me getting to spend this much time in Benton Harbor. And so he has his studio, his North Studio in Benton Harbor. And then people built around that. There's Water Street Glass with a fellow Spartan, Jerry Catania, who he actually built Chihuly's first studio in the Pacific Northwest at Pilchuck. Wow. Came back to Michigan and helped build the studio at Oxbow, the Chicago Institute of Arts Summer Glass Camp. And Jerry was instrumental in making that studio and most of the places on the property, and then set up Water Street Glass in Benton Harbor, which is an incredible place, still working today. Jerry passed away last year, but he and I were both frequent followers of one of the profs at Michigan State, who was both of our mentors. And that's where Jerry and I met 30 years ago. And to come full circle, I was in Benton Harbor doing a show, ran into Jerry, was able to do a similar project there. And through some conversations, I always thought about Muhammad Ali because of friends that took me to Benton Harbor. And I said, I know he's still around. And they go, yeah, he's here. We just saw him. He was at Silver Beach Pizza. And so that was the interesting thing. Muhammad Ali was still around. There was a couple big ad campaigns.
And people would see him just hanging around and doing his thing.
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
He cared a lot. And one of the funniest things is his wife, who is still very much a supporter of what is now the I Am the Greatest project. She made a point of, pointing out that we had these Muhammad Ali sculptures on top of buildings throughout Benton Harbor and St. Joe. And the first time she pointed it out to him, because of his condition, he wasn't as communicable. But as she put it, he was going, "That's me. That's me up on that building." So he knew the outline. He knew what it was. And, there wasn't exchanges, but there was a gleam in his eye when I saw him.
There always was. And that was one of the greatest also things about Muhammad Ali, even up until the end, that fighting spirit with him. He just really always hung on to that. I've listened to so many interviews, with his daughter now about, one of his daughters, I should say, up until the end. It's a horrible disease, but his fighting spirit of how he was, and it's hard to know what he knew, but you could see those glimmers of what you anticipated of what he knew.
And Lonnie, his wife Lonnie, would say he was aware of everything. And that was so. That's the interesting thing is we started this project 10 years ago, and luckily I worked with a gallery in the area that also was passionate about kids art programming. And we developed a whole program around the sculpture, the public art project, the sculpture throughout Benton Harbor and St. Joe, called I Am the Greatest Project, to honor his legend. And the idea was, well, what are we going to do with this? We're not just going to put it up. Let's engage. And what better community who needs a African-American role model and one that lives in their community than Benton Harbor? At the time, it was, it's right around 2008 when we started talking about all of this. So we had done a couple things, and then to develop this project and get it started, we came up with the I Am the Greatest program at ARS Arts and Culture, where these kids from Benton Harbor, who at the time, again, this is 2008, 9, 10, we had an economy that was devastated.
Terrible.
But when you talk about an African-American community, it's even worse, because it was the first emergency manager in the country was Benton Harbor. And that was right around this time. And, this was a brainchild in Michigan at the time that, hey, these guys can't manage their own money. Let's take it over and put an emergency manager in that community, which in some cases, it worked out throughout the state. I think there was 3 or 4, but in Benton Harbor, I don't know. It's a mixed bag on what actually happened with it. But that's what I was handed, and that's what I saw, and that's where I said, let's do something.
Right.
And luckily,
I think that, and also if you recall at the time when, like everything, I mean, it's not only in that time, but when you look at those economic times, the first programs to go and always get cut, as you know, more than anyone, because you're such an advocate for kids and arts programs, is arts and programs go first. Arts, music. It's the thing, as long as I can talk and breathe and have any kind of platform, I'm always going to bring you on, and anyone in your sphere, to advocate, to say it's the last thing that we should do, because I was never a science or math kid. I would have, suffered so greatly had I not had any kind of outlet in, or having recess. You know, but you know, to take those things away, and you've worked so hard and diligently for after school programs or in school programs, and in a community like Benton Harbor where the economy, especially in 2008, and it's not, you know, it's probably better now today, but it's, you know, of our state as a whole, it's not the one that's bouncing back. But you've also worked in Detroit through the YMCA programs. You know, I like to call you the biggest starving artist there is.
Well, that would be true because
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. So that makes sense.
You're, you know, I think you're the great, you know, it's my time
were you going to say it?
I was going to say you are the greatest
No,
idiot.
that's the other guy. That's the other guy. He was.
Because you, I mean, the truth is, John, I adore you because you are an amazing artist, but also it's the other part of you. It's my time to
okay.
to shine to shine many accolades on you, and that is that being a great artist, but the fact that how much you give back. And this is you came to me, I think, well, like in the fall, and you said like this is all coming up, and you know, we're gonna, you know, really tell everybody in Michigan about what we're doing. And I said, no, we're gonna tell everybody nationwide, because
I have the best PR agent in the world.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah, sure. But you know, really, Muhammad Ali, I mean, he himself crossed so many barriers. But the kids in their art program too, that, I mean, we're just getting started on the programming of this, but the kids themselves are such inspirational advocates for what can be done.
Well, it's so first of all, I have to say, I'm an instigator. I don't have bricks and mortar. I don't have an education program. So I partner with people who do, whether it's the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA in Detroit, or in this case, we're talking about the ARS Arts Culture Center in Benton Harbor. And there's a whole group there that jumped on board right from the start, but it all starts with the director, Anna, who she's the one who launched this center and bought into the project. And then we've had music people, and we've had arts educators that have been through the program off right. The last 10 years. But the most important thing I see is these kids just need attention. They need a place to go. And they, you know, it's idle hands. And crucial times like 2008, that's what you want to do, is make sure that they have something positive and a positive role model. And that's where the project really filled a niche and was able to influence a lot of kids. And you know, you're not going to get everybody in class, but if you get one of them, it's worth it. And I've got so many stories of these kids, you know, because what you do is you give them a blank cutout. And in the case of this, we had Tom Hurst, who's a local wood guy, and he's actually an educator in Niles, Michigan, retired educator now, who ran the shop class. And so we needed a canvas for each one of these kids. And so Tom came up with doing the outline, a wooden outline of the Muhammad Ali sculpture. And then he felt strongly that he should pay his shop kids to create those. And so he's created thousands of those outlines for us. And not only are we serving the kids with this as a canvas, but we're serving the kids in his program who are taking pride in cutting these things out, because they had to find out about the program. I was pretty insistent that we, you know, talk to them, but they're cutting it out too. They're asking questions. So Tom was great about that all across the board. Mm-hmm. And so we got kids there that are taking pride in it. Then we have other kids that are using these as canvases and taking the initiative with it as well. And then, you know, we developed this whole program where it's not just sit down and, you know, use these paints. It's, you know, a 6-week long program in which kids come in and they learn about Muhammad Ali. there's introspective writing that is incorporated into it. We incorporate music into it. We incorporate film. And then the idea is concept to finished design. And the finished design is actually the show at the end where we show their work, invite their parents in, give them a name badge, have them go up and defend, and I say defend, but explain what their work is and what they learned in class. And we have appetizers, and there's a dinner, and there's a bunch of other things that we incorporate into this. And again, this isn't me. This is the arts education program that they've developed, but I've had the opportunity to partner with. And it's exciting to see the openness, right? Because the openness creates dialogue, and the dialogue creates change. And I got to give you one of my proudest moments with this is we had one kid who was really into the arts, and we fostered it. We got him some private lessons. And then through another opportunity, because I'm spending so much time over there, Oxbow, which is located in Saugatuck and is the Chicago Institute of Arts Summer Art Program. The director there at the time, Mike Andrews, heard about our program. We connected with him. We told him we have these kids. And the first go around is like, well, if you get anybody, this is how much it costs to get in. A week later, he calls back and he goes, we have somebody who wants to sponsor one of the kids.
Fabulous.
So
yeah.
The ultimate, if I was going to say one of the best outcomes we had of this program, young man named Jershawn, youngest of 10 kids, none of them had the opportunity to go to college. Single parent, single mom is running the show, and he just kept coming back. And he had 2 jobs while he was coming through the center. And Jershawn really wanted to go to college, and he had other interests, but he knew his art was getting him new opportunities. So he said, hey, I think we have this. Would you be interested? And of course he was. We got buy-in from his mother and his family. They were so excited that he had this opportunity. He was the first kid of the 10 kids to get a college credit. And now he is enrolled in college as a result of his experience at Oxbow. So is it all about art? Well, art was the way to
it was his way, his
success.
Entree.
Yep.
So I love that story, and I love this, again, like that entree. I just think that's phenomenal. The I Am the Greatest is running now through the year with a new set of kids, correct? That's right. What's and has the pandemic altered anything, or is
absolutely?
Yeah.
Now it is it's an art box where there's supplies, and there's in some cases it's a canvas with the outline of the sculpture. Other cases it's the full-blown sculpture. And so what we're doing is we have to get these art boxes which have all the supplies and a little there's several little art education programs on a thumb drive, which is also a challenge too, because not everybody has technology. We take it for granted, but that's something else that we have to do is, ensure that kids have access to it. Yeah. So there's all these layers of the pandemic that come into play, and we're trying to provide a way in the interim over the last year and this year to ensure that we're abiding by the rules. But at the same time, one young lady who we were gearing up to get into Oxbow as well, her comment was, this is the worst year of my life, because she hasn't had interaction with her friends. Right. She has a supportive family. She has a supportive group around her, and she is feeling the pressure. And that's the thing. We're hearing all politicians, we're hearing everybody else talk about the pandemic from whatever their political stance is. But the most important resource we have, we're not hearing from them, because they're the ones that are learning certain things throughout this process that is going to shape the future.
Yeah, I just heard a story. You and I have talked about that. We have kids, similar age, and you and I have shared this. I just heard a story yesterday about that it'll be years to come to see what our kids have really gone through, even though you and I as parents have checked in with our kids and talked to our kids, but it is going to be years to come. And we don't even though we're sort of going maybe out of this? What does that really, I say all the time, what does that really mean? We're getting our vaccines and we're opening the doors a little bit, but what does that mean? How long does it last before we have to get the vaccine again and go through, so, which is a whole different conversation. I know that you and I err on similar political views, but which is why we're friends, but or don't kill each other. It's challenging, and that's why I asked you about the pandemic, and I want to be sure to ask you about it because there's so many amazing things about this program that already offer challenges, and then you throw in, like everything else, you throw in to economic challenges, a big upheaval of a pandemic. One thing I definitely want to reiterate, and I can't wait to meet her and bring her on through media, is Anna. She, from everything I've seen and read, I'm excited to have her with you doing the media run. You just obviously opened up my ears to a couple students that will have to engage, into media.
They tell a great story.
My ears perked up on that, but I think that's the challenge with all these amazing programs is doing them normally, then doing them in the midst of a pandemic, the costs behind them, so I encourage people to be able to seek out, taking more, we're opening up a 20-minute conversation, which you and I have never had a 20-minute conversation in our life, but
not on one topic.
Exactly. Where should people go to find out more information? And also, I say this because when they do, I want them to be able to donate if they want to the Art Center. I mean, I think that's always important. I say that to that, but also giving to the arts is super important this year. I know, Mitch and I have sat and we've watched many Broadway shows on TV, and he's always like, "Is your credit card in your hand again?" Because I mean, it's so hard not to participate in the arts, and so whenever you can, I always say, we haven't gone to Broadway shows and we haven't gone to art museums as much. So when you can give online and give to programs, it's so important, So where do people find out more about?
So two things with that. One, because you're pointing something out, there are people that have been very supportive in the program, and I'm just going to give an example so that other people can follow suit. I like to make an example of an actual person, and one guy who runs a restaurant and a bakery. It's called Bit of Swiss Bakery there, and he also owns the bread bar. His name is Tim Foley, and he saw what we did, and he has a sculpture on his roof, and he's excited about it. And he's hosted events. He's hosted wine tastings that were actually very helpful for the existence of the Art Center. And so he just recently bought a slew of art boxes, because that's what's promoted at ARS Gallery is, if you want to sponsor a kid in the community, here's what it is. And so Tim comes in and he writes a check and he sponsors 10 kids, and he continually does that. And I'm making an example of him because other people can be him. So it's really important that people say, well, what can I do? Well, look at what Tim just did. And you can do the same thing.
I love that.
So I think the easiest way is just look at ARS Gallery in Benton Harbor. Everything's on the page. They're easy to get a hold of, and they're always willing to take support as well as sponsor.
And let me ask you this: if I'm a parent in Detroit or Houghton, Houghton Lake, Michigan, can I participate in this program this year?
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, we can make anything happen, and minus the postal system that is not running real fast these days because they need some new leadership. It still does get there, and these art boxes can get there eventually. And in fact,
it is better.
I have to say, because of some of the promo we did with it, I'm not sure if you remember John Anderson. He was at State when we were there, and he has watched some of the stories, and he said, "Hey, I want to sponsor a kid," and he lives in Switzerland, and so we wrapped up a guy for him. I had actually Jashan was the one who painted it, and he just wanted to display one up on his rooftop in Switzerland. He's right next to the train station, so all these people are going by all the time. And I mailed it out to him in March of last year, and I think it got there in November.
Oh.
So it took a while.
I'm convinced that under new leadership that we have going on, our mail system is a little bit better. Just
well,
a little bit.
And this was international, so it's like double.
But
and I will say that it did get there probably about June, because it tracked up till June, and then the trail went dead, and we both gave up on it because we kept communicating. So half of it was here, the other half was what they're dealing with in Europe with the pandemic. But eventually it got there, and he sent photos back. And here's the kicker.
Oh, I remember seeing your posts.
He did a flat Stanley thing with it. Took it all over Europe with him. He was doing day trips because he just got stationed over there. And so he's taking day trips and taking photos with Ali sculpture all over the place. And he kept sending them back. And the idea was that Jashan, who painted it, got to put this on his college application, that he has this exhibit throughout Europe. And it's, that you have no idea what that can do for a kid unless you're that kid.
Amazing.
And
it's amazing.
That was thanks to social media, and also John following along with this, saying, "Hey, what can I do to help?" And then he sent a check to support arts education, which was very helpful in a time when people need that kind of support to continue programs like this. And it's crucial, not only for kids' psyche, but to keep these things in existence, so at the end of a pandemic, it doesn't close down. You don't want places like this to go away.
You don't. And also, I think that at a time where kids feel isolated, this, to be able to get into your art and to learn about such a hero, and someone, a legend who went through a lot, kids can really find out about somebody who at a different time in their, in his particular life, they're also going through similar things. There's a lot of, a lot to be learned when you're just not sitting in a classroom. And as we know, kids learn in a lot of different ways. And so, I try and look for silver linings in this pandemic. And, I'm always so thankful when I hear about programs that have pivoted and shifted, to go forward. There's no doubt that you would be one of those. Always. You haven't stopped ever. We're ending our conversation today. We stuck really only to this today.
Which was hard for us to do, Sari.
I know. Because anybody who's watching who knows us,
well, let's just be honest. The only person watching is Ida. Okay.
Ida's watching. Rob, are you watching? No, Rob's way too busy for us.
Yeah, that's okay.
But we love him. We love him. But I was going to say that whenever you do this to me, you're like, oh, do you remember from school? I have to say that I'm not sure where I was in my 4 years of school, because you remember everyone, you knew everyone. And I knew my 3 or 4 friends, and apparently that's who I knew, because you remind me of, you're like, don't you remember? And I'm like, I'm sure I was standing right next to you.
Yeah, but you had photos. The ones you sent me.
Yes, I do have photos. I see, that's the truth. I do have photos. Some might refer to them as blackmail photos, but I also know that there's blackmail photos of me out there too. So,
I'm sure there is. Yeah, I know just who to call too.
Yes, Ida has those. God love her. But thank God she's my good friend and she will use them.
Oh, yeah. I'm cleaning right now during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's debatable whether I'm cleaning, but I do have my Eat Hut hat in the other room. I should have brought it out. Oh man.
Well,
next time. Just for you.
Just post it. Well, there will be a next time because there's always another project. Everybody look up, find the man in the city, post them. They're always fun to post wherever you are. Whenever I'm out and about, I love to post to John and say, guess
what? Are you telling me that Mitch looks up?
Mitch looks up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell him thank you.
He always does. We always look up and I'll say, look on that roof. I want everyone to go and to I'm gonna want to make sure I'm looking at to Benton Harbor to the, tell me where it is because I just
ARS Gallery.
ARS Gallery. Sorry,
yeah.
There's so many. I told John. I actually.
You took notes.
I took notes. Can you believe? 30 plus years of friendship. I have notes.
I have to tell you, for the 10-year, they're actually the Arts Commission in Benton Harbor is doing banners in honor of the project that have the sculptures on the banner. Those will be up in the next couple of weeks throughout Benton Harbor, and the mayor, Mayor Muhammad, is actually named for Muhammad Ali as well. Is renaming I think it's 5th Street. He's going to rename Muhammad Ali Way as part of the I Am the Greatest project this summer.
Wow.
And then we have a couple other big installations that are coming just because we're not done. We're never done with it. And so there's a lot of activity. And this is during a pandemic still. It would have been way more. Do you think you'll
remember to tell me that before they happen? Or are you going to tell me that like one day before or after?
Which one? Because I'm gonna bug you for the rest of your life. So yeah.
No, it'll be people. It's gonna be June. People who are starting in the PR world, or my colleagues who might be tuning in, all got that. You gotta love clients who tell you something one day before, or after the fact. John might be one of those clients.
Well, no, the banners are going up in the next couple of weeks. They'll be
okay. So I'm getting this might be the PR part of our meeting right now.
Yeah, and then the street is supposedly in June. They're going to rename the street, and we'll have an event geared around that as well.
I will write that down now.
Oh, but well, I'll remind you.
I might talk to you. I might. Yes, thank you, and I might talk to you before.
Oh, good. Right. Thank you.
Right, I love you, my friend, always. Always and forever.
You can't escape, you know that. So
never. I have pictures.
Yes, you do. I know, I've seen them. Just the smattering of what you have.
Oh no, you haven't seen all of them.
I know I haven't.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Love you a lot.
Bye.
Bye.